welcome back to my channel. Today I am discussing a topic that may be sensitive to some but needs light to be shed on it. Mental lynching, the wounds we don't see. There are wounds our community carries that never made the history books. Wounds that don't leave marks on the skin, but shape how we see ourselves, how we move, how we breathe. This is what many scholars and advocates call mental lynching. The psychological violence that outlived the physical era of lynching itself. What does mental lynching mean? Mental lynching is the attempt to break a person's spirit without ever laying a hand on their body. It's the stripping away of dignity, the constant messaging that you are less than, the pressure to shrink, to doubt, to silence yourself before the world even tries to. It is the internalization of harm. When the attack moves from the outside world into the mind, where does mental lynching come from? Historical root. To understand mental lynching, we have to understand the systems that shaped it. During the era of racial terror in the United States, lynching wasn't only about physical violence. It was a tool of psychological domination. A message meant to instill fear, to control behavior, to remind Black people of the consequences of stepping out of line. Even when the physical acts began to decline, the psychological tactics remained. They evolved into stereotypes, into discriminatory policies, into biased media portrayals, into school systems that erased our brilliance, and workplaces that questioned our competence. The body was no longer the target, the mind was. How mental lynching shows up now. Mental lynching is still present, not in ropes or mobs, but in the quiet, everyday assaults on self-worth. It shows up when Black children are disciplined more harshly for the same behaviors as their peers. When Black women are labeled angry for expressing boundaries or truth. When Black men are treated as threats before they are treated as human. It shows up in beauty standards that erase our features, in workplaces where we code switch to survive, in media that profits from our pain but rarely celebrates our joy. It shows up in the exhaustion we carry, the hypervigilance we normalize, the self-doubt we inherit without ever being told why it's still prevalent. Mental lynching persists because the systems that created it were never fully dismantled, they were redesigned. They became quieter, more subtle, more psychological. And because trauma can be passed down generation to generation, some of us are fighting battles our ancestors never had the chance to heal from. But here's the truth. What was designed to break us has never succeeded. We name mental lynching not to reopen old wounds, but to understand the invisible ones. Because when we name something, we take its power back. Healing begins with awareness. Healing grows through community. Healing expands when we choose ourselves, our rest, our joy, our softness, our truth. We are not what was done to us. We are what we choose to become. And every day we honor our ancestors by refusing to let the world define our worth. This is how we break the cycle. This is how we reclaim our minds. This is how we rise. So when I talk about mental lynching, I'm not reopening old chapters. I'm naming the forces that tried to shape us without ever touching our skin. And yet, here we are, still thinking, still creating, still loving, still choosing ourselves in a world that once hoped we wouldn't. Our ancestors survived the unthinkable. We are surviving the invisible. And every time we rest, every time we speak truth, every time we honor our joy, we break another link in a chain that was never meant to hold us. Healing is not instant, but it is ours. And as long as we keep choosing clarity, choosing softness, choosing to see ourselves as whole, the cycle loses its power. We are not defined by the harm, we are defined by the rising. And today, I choose to rise with intention, with awareness, and with a mind that belongs fully to me. Thank you for being here. If this spoke to you, pass it forward, like, share, and subscribe so we can keep building spaces where our stories are honored and our minds stay free.